Geoff Popish joining us right now. Geoff, good to have you on. You're joining myself and Roberto Clemente Jr. on sports.com. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Now, Geoff played for the Super Bowl champion New York Giants and won the Super Bowl with them. Went on to play with the Bengals with Carson Palmer and the Ocho Cinco show, and also played with the Eagles. Geoff, what do you think of what's going on with the football situation now with the CBA?
I think it's kind of terrible or whatever. From what I've heard, they're not even really sitting down and meeting right now. So, you know, the chance that they get a deal done in the next 2 weeks is pretty much inevitable. So, I mean, it's pretty much a lose-lose situation from the owner's standpoint and the player's standpoint. So it's just all bad.
The thing I don't understand is how either side can afford to not have football next season and how they can do this to the fans. Baseball went through the strike in '94.
'94, right.
How bad will this be to football if these guys get locked out?
Well, it'll be epic. I mean, you know, people literally are addicted to football or whatever, and so the owners are pretty much banking on the players pretty much giving in by pretty much not having enough cash flow to last during a season if, you know, football doesn't continue or whatever. So that's pretty much the owner's standpoint. They clearly, from a financial standpoint, don't need any more money. So it is just, you know, I don't think the country, especially, you know, with the financial situation going on in America right now, that's something that families can just sit back, kick back, and watch a good football game. If they can't do that, that's going to be devastating. I don't know if they can recover from a fan's standpoint if that happens.
It's a tough one, absolutely tough one. I remember '94, and it's a different monster with football. There's the passion. It's such a short season when it comes to games, amounts of games that you're playing, that once the season's over, I mean, they're just waiting for the next season because you can't get enough. I mean, I love football as well, but you have 162 games, you know, in baseball. It's a very long season. You have football. Football fans are completely different than baseball fans, and you know, a lockout would be very, very bad and unfortunate for the game of football. Absolutely.
So, Geoff, what do you think the two sides? Why do you think they can't come to the table? They can't even, as you said, they're not even talking now.
Right. Yeah. Right now, like we just said, they're not even talking. And you know, I think the deadline, I want to say, is 2 weeks away. If you're not sitting down talking, how are you going to come to an agreement? I just think, you know, the union, obviously, they want to hold strong or whatever. You look at our situation from a player standpoint, we don't have guaranteed contracts, unlike baseball, NBA guys. We have the worst health benefit program when you're done. It's just, I mean, you go down the list, they want to add more games to the season, which, you know, it's already hard enough in this league to get vested and get your pension. It's just, I mean, you name it, the players are on the bottom end of the stick, and the owners are pretty much just looking at it from a financial standpoint. You look at Goodell, I hate to say it, but, you know, he's not really in the players' best interest. He just really wants football to continue as it has. But, you know, when you look at the bottom line, you're trying to add games to a season, to a sport that's, you know, unfortunately taxing on your body or whatever. Every time a guy goes out there, he doesn't know if he's coming back. You want to add 2 games with that, it's just not good or whatever. And I think the union's had enough, and that's pretty much why we're at where we're at now.
What do you think, in your mind, is the biggest issue?
I'm sorry?
In your mind, what is the biggest issue for the players right now?
I'd have to say benefits. You're going to add 2 games. You need to significantly increase the salary. You need to significantly increase it if you're going to add 2 games, which right now at this point seems inevitable. Not only if you're going to add 2 games, you need to also increase the roster by more than just 2 spots on the roster. I think that the health issues, as far as when guys are done playing, the benefits they receive is the number one issue. You look at the main issue for retiree guys, and I'm not talking about recent guys. I'm talking about guys that are done 10, 15 years. A lot of these guys are struggling just to eat, survive. But yet the NFL, they don't tell that story. And so, I think players currently today in the union and the player reps, they're doing a good job of bringing that to fans' attention or whatever, and it's something that definitely needs to be addressed.
I think, Roberto, I think that the two most quiet topics about the impending lockout are the two that Geoff just mentioned. I hear player after player talk about this, but I never see anything in print. I never hear about it on the air. That is, get more guys on the roster, allow us to have more guys on the team and more guys on the practice squad, and let's get benefits for the retirees and for when we will be retired players, and make sure that these guys are taken care of. Whether it's pensions, whether it's health care, whether it's whatever it is, those are the two that I hear the most often from players, right from their mouths, but never see in print, never hear on the airwaves. Are those two, in your mind, very, very important issues?
For me?
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I think Geoff is absolutely right. I mean, when you think about what they go through in the season, in their careers, it's a sport, that you never know if you're going to come out, every time you go, onto the field. And to add a couple more games, that's a lot.
How does it differ from baseball? What does baseball do to take care of the retired players and as far as benefits? I think all of this is a gray area for the fans. So when you play baseball, you play 10, 15 years. What happens after you're done? Do you get health care?
You have your pension. You actually start with your pension after you retire. After 10 years, you automatically have your pension. And yes, you have your benefits, and you have organization support groups that will help you out. In the old days, unfortunately, there's a lot of players that gave it all out there and not doing that well. That's why you have an organization like BAT that will help those guys that before they were able to get into the pension plan. Are helping those guys that are in need. But as a whole right now, the Players Association have done a great job to be able to protect the guys that have been retiring. And it's something that I'm actually proud to say that was the first player rep for the union. The first player voted in to represent the players, but it's something that Geoff would touch, that it's a very, very major issues, and it's something that they need to resolve very, very soon, because as he said, it's only a couple weeks away.
I think it's something that's going to go down to the wire. I think, like many labor disputes I've seen, whether it's being in the media, whether it's a labor union for nurses or a hospital or construction workers or MTA, some kind of transit, or it's athletes, is that it never seems like they get to their decision point. They never come to the table until the 11th hour and they hammer it out. I think what's going to happen the 11th hour here in my mind is not March 4th. The 11th hour is the final preseason game. And I think that it will go all the way to about the second preseason game, and they'll get to the table. And then they'll start talking, because neither the owners nor the players want to see not having a football season, and they'll wind up scrambling. The interesting thing, though, and the players keep saying this, is the players are willing to play without a contract. They're willing to play on what they have now until they work out a deal. That's a very hard situation for both parties to do, but the players aren't walking out. I think that the owners need to take a long look at what they're doing and see if it's really the right move, because if the players are willing to play, maybe they should allow them to go to mini camp and training camp, and at the same time try and really hammer out a deal. Now, Geoff, I know you're going to be doing a lot with us in a political show, which I'm very excited about here on sports.com, and we can talk about that in a minute. I have one question for you about your show, and before we get to that, you're a young guy. I know that you didn't get to watch Roberto Clemente play, but was Roberto Clemente somebody you looked up to when you were playing? We've been talking about this all afternoon, and if so, why?
Well, it's funny because, I grew up in the inner city, and maybe Roberto can comment on this or whatever. Baseball is not really a huge sport in the inner city. For instance, I grew up in Detroit because, it's a lot more, I guess, expensive to put on as far as like groundkeeping and stuff like that. But his name is somebody that I definitely recognize and remember during his playing days. Like you said, I am a younger guy or whatever, but that's something maybe he can touch on as far as getting baseball or as far as like youth organizations involved in their cities, because or testament that there's a lot of young talent that could be playing baseball at a younger age besides just football and basketball, which seems to be the two common sports that young people play in America.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. You know, one of the things that's happening, obviously, when you talk about the youth today, is the fact that, you know, you can grab a basketball, only one basketball, only one ball, and that's all you need to play, you know, basketball, soccer. You know, you get one ball, play football. You can play, you know, just flag football, whatever you want to do. But for baseball, it's a little different. You need the equipment. You need, you know, gloves. You need bats. You need balls.
You can play stickball.
You can play stickball, absolutely. But you need space. You need fields. And one of the things that Major League Baseball has done is with the RBI program, which is Revivers of Baseball in the Inner Cities, has done a great job trying to get the baseball into the inner cities and giving the opportunity to the kids to go through the program, which is actually education through sports, and being able to hopefully get these kids off the streets, being able to give them the opportunity to perhaps get a scholarship through baseball, not only for boys but also for girls softball, which is something that is creating those opportunities and hopefully becoming better students, better members of society. And you never know. There's quite a few guys already that have been through RBI that made it to the major leagues. And hopefully those kids will be able to look up and see this, mostly African American guys, that those numbers of the African Americans in baseball has dropped immensely. So we're trying to be able to give the opportunity to the kids in the inner cities to be able to go and do well in sports.
Well, I think that sounds terrific, and it sounds like a great program, and I think that we should do some video on it and check out what those programs are doing in the inner cities, and it'll be interesting to see. Geoff, you're going to have a great political show here on sports.com. You're going to examine the cross-section between sports and politics. Guys like John Runyon will be your guest. You'll have lots of guests on, but you'll have John Runyon, former Philadelphia Eagle, now Congressman. Bill Bradley was a senator, U.S. Senator for a long time, New York Knick. So I think it'll be a very interesting show. I do have one question for you. The president is meeting today with several top tech guys. I want to know what you think about his new tech initiative and the fact that he wants to make sure everybody's internet speeds are up to par going forward and in the future.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm obviously, you know, being a Democrat or whatever, I'm a big fan of Obama, and I've been paying attention to him meeting, I think, with Zuckerberg today and a couple others. And I think that's huge because, you know, you look at education as far as, like, America's concerned, and we're literally at the bottom of the totem pole compared to, like, China and a couple of those other countries. And the key to that access is, you know, obviously education, but just better technology, whether it's higher internet speed and stuff like that. So, you know, you have to appreciate Obama, whether you're, you know, considered a liberal or conservative or independent in this country, trying to make an impact on technology and really where it can take us or whatever. Because, you know, as he said or whatever, you know, years ago we led the world in technology, and somehow between then and now we dropped the ball. We're the last as far as technology is concerned. So I'm a big fan of Obama trying to make an impact on America as far as technology is concerned.
All right, well, you can check out more with Geoff Pope on sports.com. He's got a show. It'll be a political sports show examining the cross-section between sports and politics and talking to politicians and athletes, talking about the issues that everyone thinks is important, the athletes and the politicians, and what they think should be done and why and how. Geoff, thank you so much for joining us. Check that out on sports.com. You can find the schedule of all our shows, including Geoff's show. It should be debuting next week. Geoff, have a great day. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks.